think. Oh, hang on a minute.
Oh.
I think we started, Richard.
Oh, right,
Oh,
okay, yeah,
right.
no,
Better
right.
stop dancing and start.
Start boxing, right, okay. Hello, my name's Richard.
And very welcome to this webinar. Yes.
Yeah,
You were going to say that.
Yes, I was going to say that. I forgot. This is a webinar about the Victorian Stuart project and Toolkit.
Yeah, exactly. Very welcome to this webinar. So that's Richard Keegan-Bull. I'm Irene Toffrey-Weijner. Yeah, that's me. And so we are sitting here at Kingston University in our office. You can't see our colleagues, but they're all around us working the tech. And we worked together on the project that produced the end-of-life care planning toolkit, the Victorian Stuart project. So very welcome. Lots of people have signed up to this, haven't we? We were pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Like
well, there's over 500 people joined us, so that's really good.
More than 500 people have signed up. Yeah, really amazing.
Yeah.
So some of you will know us already. You might have watched some of our webinars in the past. If you're new, you're very welcome. Lovely to have you here. What we're doing today is you will have heard of the Victoria Stuart Toolkit because you've signed up to this webinar. All our resources for end-of-life care planning that we've produced. That came out last summer, so that's been out for you to use for more than a year now. They're all online. All our resources can be downloaded from our website, victoriaandstuart.com. But people have been using them. And so what we thought we'd do today is to see how you're getting on with using them, to remind ourselves what it is, what's in the toolkit. And also, we've worked with Marie Curie who are providing a free print service, because before you could only really access the resources or use them by downloading them from the website, printing them out yourself. There is now a free print service if you're in the UK. So we'll tell you about that. So today we'll start with a bit of an overview of what the Victoria and Stuart Project Toolkit was. And then we have asked some people who've used it to tell us how they got on. So the main speakers will be those people. I'll tell you a little bit more about them later. Just a little bit of housekeeping. The webinar will be recorded, so we'll put it on YouTube probably tomorrow or the day after. We'll put the link to the website where you can download the resources with the YouTube video. If you signed up, we'll email it to you. You can use the Q&A. We're quite busy today. It's quite a full webinar, so we might not have that much time to talk, but we will be able to see your questions and your comments. So do share in the chat if you can, or in the question box, who you are. If you have used the resources, we'd love to hear how you got on with them, any questions you have, and we'll pick those up and we'll hopefully be able to respond to some of them. I think that's enough talking, isn't it? Shall we just get on and see?
Let's go on with it.
Get on with it. Good idea.
Hello, I'm Richard.
I'm Leon.
I'm Amanda, and we work at Kingston University.
We helped to make this toolkit. In this video, we will tell you
What is in the toolkit?
the toolkit is to help you think about the end of your life and to help you to plan ahead for when you're going to die.
The toolkit has lots of resources like pictures and cards to help you think and talk about it.
Or you can use art.
Or talking mats.
If you are staff, there are free guides to help you. They show you how to help us to be involved in making choices.
Most of the toolkit is free to download.
We found a gap in the market.
We asked Bixby on Words to make new pictures about funerals.
We also asked an artist to make picture cards that help you think about being ill and to help you plan for your funeral.
We also make guides with lots of videos showing you how you can use everything. They're all on YouTube.
Bedroom became a place of fun. It was always bright colours and fairy lights and music all the time, because music was her language.
Who do they want to be with if they only have a day left?
And we had tears, but we had lots of laughing as well.
I was Stuart's community nurse for quite a few years, and he picked me, you know, that he loved football. He's Arsenal. Hey, him and Arsenal, you know, he lived and breathed it. And when he was able to start to go to matches again, that was the time when was able to get a lot of health related information from him, because that's when he relaxed the most. Every time he was shouting out for the Gunners, he was feeling being a part of the football community, and he was able to say things that he felt relaxed enough and safe enough to say them.
So my top tips would be led by the person you support. What do they want to talk about rather than what you want to know? And if you need to debrief yourself, find somebody to debrief to. That would be my top tips.
It's a long way of saying there is no right place, there is no right time, there is no right person. Every time is the right time, every place is the right place, and you are definitely the right person to help people to talk together. So have a go, see if in the next week you can just drop death and dying into the conversation.
I'm ready to plan my funeral.
On my gravestone, that I'm going to have a gravestone that I want. This man was an author. You know, so people can see that this man wrote a book, yes. Yeah, the book there, 1899, yes.
The gravestone would have the following inscription: "Here lies Leon, a deep spiritualistic and thinker who loves his family and friends and believes that what comes from earth returns to earth."
My life story, that's what I'm going to have on my tomb, that I'm an author and I wrote my book, 1899, on Amazon. And that's quite a big thing to say, but my book's on Amazon.
Because I used to love horse riding, I want to go by horse instead of a funeral car.
A hearse like that would be alright, it will be, yes, seriously, yes.
I would like the coffin with me in it to be delivered by a hearse.
Something smart, yes, that, and so I can be seen by everybody, yes, that...
And the colour for that hearse would have to be either gold or blue.
Well, I want to go past my flat where I live now, so people, I want people to walk by my flat, so you know that they can see that I lived in my own flat independently on my own, and that yes, I want people to go by there, and I want the hearse to go by there. I do, you know, that just maybe just stop for me, you know, just so that people can just see that this is the flat where Richard lived in a big city in in London, you know.
You only get one life, and you got to live that life to the fullest, because you don't know what's around the corner.
Hands up, baby, hands up. Give me your heart, give me your heart, give me hands up, baby, hands up. Give me your heart, give me your heart, give me hands up, baby, hands up. Give me your heart, give me your heart, give me hands up. Give me your heart, give me your heart, give me hands up, baby, hands up.
Oh, I think we're back again.
All right, oh yes, we're back on now,
What
yeah.
should people do, Richard, if they've got 18.99 to spare?
Well, let's go out and buy this book. It's very good. It is 18.99.
Anyway, let's get back.
Yes,
Thank you. Let's get back to the webinar, shall we?
Don't put us away, yes.
So let's put that away for now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope that was a useful overview. If you have used these resources, or even if you haven't, do feel free to put some comments in the chat or in the Q&A. Introduce yourself, say who you are, how you've used them, what you've thought of them. But as I say, they are looking amazing. Now they're all printed out, aren't they, Richard? And there's various different ways in which people can use these resources. Some people just, talk with one person.
Yes.
Some people do it in a group.
Yeah.
If I were to put all these out to you, Richard, which of these pictures would you pick and have something to talk about? What do you think?
I think transport would be quite good to talk about.
Transport, okay. Because this is about what would happen if you are really, really ill, isn't it?
Yes, that's it, yes.
So why do you want to talk about that one?
Well, I want to talk about that is because it's quite important to make you feel relaxed. What kind of transport you will really want to go to the hospital and what will make you feel comfortable in going, because the bus sometimes can be a bit too hectic, and the train you couldn't find a seat to sit on, but a taxi might cost a bit of money, but it make you feel a bit more relaxed at going to appointments.
So it's a bit of a worry, isn't it,
It
for you, when you have to go to hospital, and how you're going to get there and how you're going to get out.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's think about it every time.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of things that we that you can talk about.
Yeah.
It's interesting because
Yeah.
I didn't expect you to pick that one.
No, you didn't.
I thought you were going to talk about, I don't know,
I
hospital.
surprised you there, I did.
You
Yes.
did. Richard. So we're just going to now sort of listen to some people who've used these resources. We've asked people to, so there's one group up in Yorkshire in Kirklees from St Anne's Community Services. So we've got Ian, Lewis and Renee who have a learning disability and who are telling us what they thought of the resources, and they sent us a little video of that. And I've spoken to a group of people, staff from the Marie Curie Hospice in the West Midlands, and they are really today's main presentation and presenters talking through what they did to and how they used the toolkit. So let's just listen to their feedback. It's about 20 minutes long. It was recorded on Zoom and with home camera, so it's not quite BBC quality.
No.
But it's the content that really matters. So let's just listen to what they had to say about our resources.
My name's Ian. My name's Lewis.
My name's Renee.
And we have been working on the Victorian Stuart project.
We use the Victorian Stuart project resources as part of future care discussions and talking about dying project.
We used Let's Talk About Funeral cards, My Funeral cards and When I'm Ill cards.
The cards helped to talk about things, subjects and things about the things about are important to us.
Pictures are helpful. Sometimes some of the pictures got me think about things I hadn't thought about before.
Sometimes this was quite hard and it made me feel sad.
Pictures help us talk about things that are hard to talk about. We want to help other people use the Victoria and Stuart project cards and other resources.
We know this can sometimes be difficult. This is because people are worried about talking about the end of their lives and planning their funeral.
Not really get chance to really that about how they will feel they are being ill.
And if they suddenly can't do anything they can do now, or if they need more help, we think it's very important to plan for what it is important to us if we were to become ill.
We want to help people in the area find out more about the Victoria and Stuart project and how to get hold of and use the cards. We think there needs to be more work done to help people learning disabilities, their families and carers to do this.
We enjoyed doing the Victoria and Stuart project. I
hope you enjoyed it too.
A organisation local to our hospice in the West Midlands, that is an advocacy organisation, and they had a group of people that they were working with who had learning disabilities, but also they'd started to talk a bit about planning for later life, planning for end of life, and they weren't quite sure how to go about starting those plans. They just asked me if there was anything that we could do to support, I suppose. It just so happened that at the same time we had the training on the Victoria and Stuart Toolkit, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity to try it out to see if it would work. And then I roped Hannah and Saker into helping me out with it, basically. And then there was also two members of staff from the advocacy organisation, Emma and Nikki as well, that worked throughout with it. And then we also had one of the participants, they always came with a support worker as well. And what we found from doing it was the support worker that came, they also got something out of it, although they weren't writing their own funeral plan or they weren't writing their own end of life plan or a care plan or anything like that. They also got something out of it, both for themselves, but also for the person that they were supporting. One of the first things that we did was looked at people's support network and who were their circle of support. We knew further down the line when these kind of plans were being created that that circle of support might be the kind of people that they would want to share them with, and that it would be important for them to communicate some of the things that they'd talked about within the toolkit, or even just where it was. You know, one of the things that we did at the end was, you know, this is your plans, this is your folder. We talked about where are you going to put it and who are you going to tell where it is if you know people were to ever need to find it or need to use it.
Talking about these topics are sensitive and they can be really quite difficult and challenging. So asking people to be vulnerable really requires us to create a safe space, but also it needed to be accessible and also friendly and open and easy for people, not to be bottom drawer stuff, let's lay it out all on the table. It needed to be, let's get to know you first. And so it was really great to kind of try and use a toolkit, and it worked really lovely. Because we didn't know, it was unknown to us. There was curiosity that was there already, as Hannah mentioned, that a lot of people had asked, you know, I'd like to be able to have these conversations, and it's quite startling to think that people haven't been asked and these aren't topics that aren't discussed because it's so important. I think the beauty of it was the fact that we were together as a group. We started together, we ended together, and we were on that journey consistently. where we met, we held each other in really difficult times, and when people would get tearful and share their experiences of loss, or they would share their experiences of care, or people being frightened or anxious or worried. But then there was also a lot of joy. People would share their favorite music that they would like at their funeral, and people wanted it to be a celebration of life, and the things that really were important to them. And that for us is a privilege, to be able to facilitate and hear people's stories, but also what matters to them most. But it really meant a lot to see. You would notice kind of on the first day there was a little bit of nervousness, as we all do, when you're starting something new, because it's unknown. And on sort of day 7, it was like, I don't want this to end. It was a real sense of belonging and connection that the group had formed. So it was really lovely.
It was good to have the chance to go through the resources with people. I think one of the things that really allowed people to speak was having the cards, and it was different things that may be involved in a funeral, what's important to them, because then they were able to pick directly which one they wanted to talk about, and it was different for each person. And it was interesting because the one that we wasn't sure how people would respond to was someone being cremated. It was the one where someone was being cremated and the flames were around them. And so we had the different cards out in the table, and we allowed people to pick one and speak about, why did you pick that one? What's your thoughts on this? And it was that one that really opened up a discussion among people of what they felt about that, or who they known that had had a cremation and what they felt of that. And it was one that they wanted to talk about, actually, what they did or didn't want. And so the images that maybe you would have thought wouldn't cause discussion actually did. The other member of staff from the advocacy organisation said that she almost felt like turning it over. But I think because the picture is so visual and obvious of what it is in terms of a cremation, whereas I think sometimes you can almost speak in by suggesting things when it comes to death and dying. So you're like, oh, they've gone to sleep and they've passed away. Whereas with that picture, it's very obvious. It's someone being burned. But sometimes you need to be obvious for people to understand what it is you're trying to say. And so it caused a really good discussion because they were able to completely understand it. And so it wasn't like they were second guessing what is it that picture's trying to say. They understood. And so they felt comfortable to talk about what they felt, because for once, they know exactly what everyone's talking about. They know exactly what the pictures mean, so they could share what they wanted around that picture and what cremation meant for them.
She told us about like the urge that she'd had to turn it over, but she didn't, obviously. We was aware that these conversations were just being withheld from people in for different reasons. I'm sure some of them good intention reasons, but ultimately it was just not giving people that opportunity to have those conversations. And that was a prime example of that, actually. In a different setting, I wonder if she would have been a bit more selective with what pictures she chose and put out. But I think because we were just from the start, we were like, we're just going to talk about everything and see how it goes, that we did just kind of put everything out. So
the discomfort for a lot of people, it doesn't just sit with support workers, it's parents, it tends to be adults. Having uncomfortable situations and uncomfortable conversations are so challenging, and they aren't easy. But also to be able to normalize it and let that person be involved is huge, because it means to them, you care about me enough to involve me in that process. And that makes me feel good. It makes me feel considered. It makes me feel, that I am at the centre.
One lady that I was going through it with, and actually it was about the funeral. And it was through talking about the funeral, she began talking about when she was a mum and taking her children to Irish dancing competitions and how she would hand make all their outfits. And it kind of brought out this whole other side of her in terms of her interests and the things she liked once, and a part of who she was that probably would once have been just kept away until the funeral. In that normally you go to a funeral, you're like, oh, I never knew they were involved in that, or they once did that. But through the toolkit, it allowed you to see that part of her before she's died, which is really good, and it lets them be able to talk about a part of them that's sometimes hidden away until someone's died. And so it opened up this beautiful conversation of a part of who she is and what matters to her. And even though that part of her life had ended, it was something that was still very key to who she was and what she enjoyed and how she saw herself.
Especially the funeral cards, with them being those pictures, you know, we kind of printed them all out and had them all out on the table. So we did it all as a group. Whereas some of the other bits we did a little bit more kind of one-to-one, so that we could have those proper conversations and get things written down and things like that. What was really nice is we could do both of those, that we could do the group stuff, and we could also do the kind of more one-to-one stuff. But what I think was so nice about doing the group side of things and having all the pictures out and having that opportunity for people to pick and talk about their own experiences is the other group members then started to become they almost started to continue to facilitate that themselves, that actually you didn't need us there, who, yeah, we talk about death and dying on a daily basis and we're quite used to talking about it, you know, and we were there just in case, you know, anybody needed a bit of extra support or anything. But actually the group kind of became that for each other. And, you know, somebody might have shared something that was really, you know, poignant for them or very specific for them, and then, you know, maybe it did upset them or it brought up a memory that was quite, you know, upsetting for them. But then another member of the group then was the person that was providing them with that support, then that emotional support, and then would bring in some of their own experiences. So then it kind of created this atmosphere where they didn't feel like as alone, or they didn't feel like they were the only ones that were experiencing it. Or sometimes what some of the group found when they started to share, they thought that for them they were the only person, or that they were doing it wrong, or that there was something in the way that they were dealing with it that was wrong. Or, you know, we had some feedback that it was, you know, you realize that you're not alone in your grief, or you're not alone in the way that you're feeling. And the open coffin picture, Hannah picked this picture because you were talking about in Jamaica that it's part of the culture that actually a lot of people have open coffins. So that kind of sparked a bit of a conversation, because it was very controversial that, you know, a lot of people were like, no, definitely not, no open coffin. But then because Hannah kind of picked it out and made it just a normal conversation, we would then continue to just have a conversation about it, even though by the end of it, a lot of people were still like, no, I definitely wouldn't have an open coffin. But it just meant that we could talk about what that actually meant. And then people could really understand why that happens and what that actually means, as in, you know, the fact that the person is dead within that coffin. So yeah, so that was another great example.
I was supporting a gentleman, and he basically shared, you know, in my coffin, I want my favourite things, and he named, I want my favourite coffee because I'll be nowhere without coffee, and I want my favourite record, which will be Elvis Presley. And then he then said, this is the first song that I would want, which was an Elvis song, which then led into his love for kind of music. And then we talked about country films, and his a sort of favorite jumper that his wife had knitted him, and all these beautiful things he was describing. And he got quite tearful because he said, oh my gosh, I'm actually thinking about, you know, these are the things that I'm going to be buried with. But he was like, but these are happy tears, you know. It was bittersweet. It was quite, it was really difficult because he has got a diagnosis. So he very much was thinking about something that is going to happen, maybe more so sooner than others that are in the group. But he just said, you know, I said, you know, oh, you okay? Let's take your time, catch your breath. But he was like, no, I want to do this. And I said, so what's going to happen with this now, you know, when we finish off with the toolkit? and his words. And he said, well, I'm going to keep it with me, and then I'm going to give it to my wife and say that's where it is, and those are all the things, and that's going to help her know. And that was a really beautiful thing. So just being able to facilitate that for that person was really special. So yeah.
One thing I think that, you know, definitely kind of came out of this is, how do we make these toolkits the new advanced care plan for a person with a learning disability? Why should they then have to go and do another formal document that is not accessible to them and doesn't mean anything to them? So how do we continue to make sure that these documents are used and recorded so that they follow them wherever they go, if they're going to the GP or if they go to the hospital, if they go to a hospice? Because we talked about it at the end of the group, right? Who would you share these with? Who needs to know this important information that you've now put together? So I think that is definitely something for the future. And I think that's a system thing that needs to happen, that actually, why can't somebody just turn up with this toolkit when they go to the GP and say, look, this is the way that I want to be cared for, and this is the way that I want to be supported.
It helps to develop your own kind of way of working as well. So for me, it was that idea of, well, you know, we meet so many different people with lots of different presentations, and just because it's easier not to ask doesn't mean that it's right, you know. And I think that having a toolkit like this has just enabled us to reach a wider audience of people by bringing the topic to the table, enabled those people to be able to talk amongst themselves and be able to share ideas. And I think that in itself was the biggest learning, was, you know, being able to observe and to watch and hold people, because it is emotional, it really is. But people's resiliences were building throughout as well. So that it really was a wonderful piece to be a part of, yeah.
Amazing, isn't it, to hear that feedback?
Yes, it was.
Just talking in the office now, whilst we were listening to this, how similar that was to what was happening in our groups when we co-designed with a group of people with a learning disability. We did it all together. It was similar, wasn't it? Some people didn't want to think about dying, other people did. But you really supported each other in that group.
We did, yeah, we were all there for each other and we helped each other, because it was quite sad to talk about it all, but it's also, we made it quite interesting as well, and fun a bit.
Yeah, because we actually similarly, we had about seven or eight meetings. It was all day to produce this together with a group of 8 people with a learning disability.
Yes.
And we didn't want that to end either, did we?
No.
I mean, it was hard, but people kept coming back, and it was it was a lovely thing to do. And as the people from the Midlands, Hannah and Psycho were saying, it was it was helpful for all of us, including the staff, if you like. So, and also thank you to the group from Yorkshire. Wonderful to hear from Renee and Ian and Lewis. So thank you for that. So let us move on to what is new, because this has been out for a year. You can download these resources. You can print them out. There are other resources as well in the toolkit that we're not showing you today, that other people have made, art materials and that kind of thing. But today we are launching from September. For in the last month, you have been able to order those resources free of charge from the Marie Curie website. We've got a bit of an advert, haven't we? So shall we just show people the advert that tells you? We have been busy.
It is important that everyone has a chance to talk about dying and plan for the end of their life. But it can be hard to know where to start. That's why we made an end-of-life care planning toolkit. Order your free toolkit now! from the Marie Curie website. It will be delivered to you free of charge. You do not have to pay for this. It includes when I'm ill cards. Let's talk about funerals. My funeral card. The resources even come with bite-sized guides to help you use them. You may find that talking together about end of life is not so difficult after all. Get your toolkit now from the Marie Curie website.
Well, there we are, Richard.
There we are, yeah.
I think I'm just going to take these off because I'm not as good as Sunflower as Amanda, who did the acting in that video. But
Yeah.
so, Postman, you can have your toolkit delivered if you're in the UK. I have to say, if you're watching this from outside the UK, then I'm afraid you are. Well, it's still really good from the website. Just download them and print them out yourself, because people really have told us, haven't they, that they wanted those pictures printed out in colour, big.
Yeah.
A4 size big, so so that's really important. So I hope that was interesting and helpful. If you do have any questions, somebody's asking about this fabulous advert. Yes, you can, and we'll send you the link. It's on YouTube. So somebody else was asking whether this is going to be recorded and whether they can share this webinar with their colleagues. And the answer again is yes, you can. We have a YouTube channel, the Victoria and Stuart YouTube channel. So we'll put it on there probably later this week. So interesting to hear this feedback of people using it, because we have made these resources and they look quite different from your standard end-of-life care plans that are usually on paper, aren't they? And people can fill them in and tick boxes.
Yeah.
But the group didn't really like those paper forms, did they?
Too wordy and too long and too. Yes.
Yeah, even so, we felt that really what was missing, the gap in the market that we found, was something that helps people to open up conversations, right? And that is something I've learned from making this toolkit with the group, is that even with those pictures here that we, the single image pictures to this one, for example, you may well have a question in your head. If you're using this with somebody, your question may be, do you want to be buried or cremated? Looking at this one, Richard.
Yeah.
But we found that if I asked a question that was in my head, it tended to block conversations, because usually found that when people see a picture like this, there are things they have in their minds that they want to talk about.
It makes people start to think when they see pictures and start to, it helps them to start to talk about it. Yes.
And they may then well start talking about the funeral they've been to from their grandmother or something. And, gradually you might get to what people think about coffins, what people think about, graveyards, etc. So it's I really would encourage you to have a go and see how you get on. It's hard for staff to do this, often for support workers who are, because we're not used to talking about death and dying in this country, really. And it can be a worry, because you're worried about what words you might use, or you're worried about upsetting people. And people were upset when they announced it.
They were very upset, some people were. Because it started, once we started to talk about what we wanted to do for the group, people started in the group thinking about their own funerals, what they've been to, so it's really quite, quite. Maybe we start to think about things that happened to them, yes.
Yeah.
been
But,
to.
but that was also good, wasn't it? We laughed a
Yes,
lot
we
and we
did.
learned a lot. And like the people in the video said, we also learned a lot about each other. And,
Yes,
and it was often also a joyful thing to
It
talk
was.
about that. And people really wanted to talk about those things. They
Yes.
might not have a chance to talk about them, their grand's funeral or the
Yeah.
worries, the questions that they have. The other thing, I will just tell a really quick story because it was so interesting and it made me think about it when I watched that picture of the coffin going into the flames.
Yes.
Remember the cremation picture?
Yes,
Do you remember how difficult it was to get that picture right?
it was quite difficult. Yes.
We looked at a lot of pictures with the group that were out there that represented cremation, and we found that none of them were pictures that everybody in the group could understand. It was pictures of an urn, for example, a vase, or it was curtains closing, or it was the building that the cremation happens in. It was confusing. So we Googled it, we put
We did,
cremation
yes.
in, and we had then you
Yes,
see
lots
pictures,
of different pictures we came up with.
lots of different pictures, and again, none of them were really sort of very clear, but it did have images of coffins going into
Yes,
into the oven, if you
It
like.
did, yeah, it did, yeah.
And seeing that prompted one person in the group to say, "Oh, but I chose cremation because I'm claustrophobic, and I didn't think you'd had to go into a coffin. I didn't know you had to go in a coffin." And that opened the whole conversation about, do you have to go in a coffin, or could you
Yes.
go?
Yeah.
Maybe you had to go and find out. The
Yes,
answer is no, you
no,
don't.
No, all
Yeah,
right.
you could just go into a. So we then asked a group, people with a learning disability, to draw us a picture of cremation, and most people drew a coffin with flames. So we
Yes, yeah.
realised that's what the picture had to
Yeah,
have.
yes.
And we then commissioned that from Books Beyond Words. The artist went to a crematorium to see how that works. And I still remember finally showing the group of people with a learning disability the first drawing of the artist, those pictures. Remember that? A cheer
Yes.
went up.
It did, yes, yeah, no, I do remember it, I do, yeah.
And people said, "Oh, this is really good,
Yes,
wonderful,
yeah.
this is right." But when we showed it to the families and the professionals who were also working with all this, they had a sharp intake of breath. Can't show that. You
No.
can't show that.
Yes.
It really took time for people to think what people really
Yes.
wanted was
Yes.
something that actually shows what
Yes.
it is. So see what you think, and we'd really be interested as if you're using the resources, please let us know how you're getting on. There is a survey that we're doing in the next 6 months. And when does it close, Andrea? Do you want to just come round quickly? Here's Andrea. She's doing the text, so hopefully, there you go. There's Andrea, and she is running this survey and getting your feedback. It really, really helps us now and in the future to know how you're getting on, even if you just use one picture with one person. If you use it with people who don't have a learning disability, if you're just using it with your staff team, just tell us what that was like and what you think. Any feedback is useful feedback. That's really all we have to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to our webinar today on the Victoria and Stuart Toolkit.
And spread the word. This is the first of a new series of webinars that we're running here with the Kingston University Learning Disability Research Group that we have. We're doing lots of research projects. The next one, I can tell you that now, will be on the 4th of December on a Thursday. We'll send you the details of that so you can register early. Don't miss our webinars. But in the meantime, let me just put this back on for our wave. Oh, hang on, do you want something else to say?
Yes. Don't put 1899. It's a real good book, and the postman can deliver it to you as well. He can.
Oh, of course you can if you get
Yes.
to Amazon, right?
Yeah,
Show
get
your
to
wave.
Amazon, yes.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.